Welcome to today's show on AI for practice efficiency, how advisors are streamlining workflows and unlocking new opportunities. I am Horsesmouth's Devin Kropp, and I'm joined by Sean Bailey, Horsesmouth Editor-in-Chief. Today, Sean and I will be sharing some early results from a survey we have out in the field about how advisors are using AI to skyrocket their practice's efficiency and pave the way for future growth. So, Sean, thanks for joining me today. We can jump right into it here. The survey shows that about 12% of advisors are using AI for strategic business planning. What specific initiatives do you think an advisor could kind of develop using AI in this way?
Um, yeah, it's a good question, and it's really fascinating. And of course, we're about to go through some results from our survey of use cases that are on the lower end, right? We've talked previously about, using AI for content development, for marketing, for preparing client meeting notes. Um, but this is a general purpose technology, meaning that it can be, applied, across nearly all domains and within each domain across nearly all types of job tasks. And so yeah, I just wanted to put that out there for background. And we're plumbing some of the moment at this moment in time, some of the usages that have a lot of potential, and in some advisors are doing them based on our survey. But they're not widespread by any means at this point in time. Now, your question about using AI for strategic planning is really a good, well, it's a favorite topic of mine. And I was listening to a podcast last week with Satya Nadella, who's the CEO of Microsoft. And I mentioned, I mangled his quote last week, but it actually applies very much to this question of strategy, right? Because we're not talking tactics, the things I was mentioning before about, content development, client meeting notes. These are all tactical kinds of things you do within your business, right? But now we're talking about strategy, which is kind of the bigger picture, looking ahead, trying to anticipate the direction of your business, what's going on in the market, what opportunities you have. And AI can be, hugely helpful in this way. And Satya Nadella said in this podcast, he said, the new workflow for me is that I think with AI and then I share it with my colleagues. Okay. And what that means, like, all right, he's, the CEO of, one of the top five businesses in the world, right? And billions in revenue, hundreds of thousands of employees. Um, and so he's a guy who definitely thinks about strategy all the time, right? He's not in there noodling around at the tactical level of, what's going on within his business. Um, and so when it comes to strategic planning for financial advisors, well, what does that even mean? It could mean things like, um, I want to grow my business. I feel like I'm extremely well known in this marketplace here, but what if I wanted to do something different? And you could have, a deep and meaningful conversation, with your AI about, okay, maybe you're in a semi-rural or some suburban area, and you know that there's another uh, small metropolitan area 30 miles away, and you're thinking, huh, I wonder if we could put an office over there, plant a flag, so to speak. There aren't many financial advisors over there as there are in this area. And there's some new things happening there. Maybe there's a new manufacturing facility, whatever the case is. You can sit down and you can invoke the role of strategic planning consultant who specializes in working with financial advisors. We talk about how in our programs we teach people the proper framework for communicating with AI models to get the best results. And so when it comes to using AI for strategic business planning, you would want to be invoking some level of expertise to kick off your conversation, right? So you can say, act as that, strategic business planning consultant who works with financial advisors on how to identify and grow new markets in their business. I want to have, right, that's the role, right? Now on the task, I want us to have a sort of freewheeling, brainstorming conversation about how I might think about planting the flag and opening a new office. Yeah, there's maybe two or three potential areas within 30 to 45 minutes of where you're living geographically, and you would say, where that is. And then you'd say, let's have a conversation about that. Ask me questions, and let's just see where the conversation goes. I have done this sort of thing. I've interviewed people who've done this sort of thing. It is totally mind-blowing experience because these AI models are so smart. They've been trained on so much data, and the AI will start asking you some very insightful questions about what it is you want to achieve going into this market. Then it might uh, have produce an analysis, a demographic analysis of the areas that you're looking at. What are the what are the uh, what's the net worth of families in these regions? Who are the main employers? How what type of client that exists in your business now where you're successful? How many of those types of clients might we find in that area? And then the conversation can switch sometimes from a strategic business planning consultant to a sort of data analyst who's familiar with Census Bureau data and small business administration data, and you could have a meaningful conversation about the types of professionals who need financial planning services or investment management consulting services in that area and go from there, right? So that would be, that's an example of having strategic conversations with these AI models. And now, more specifically, again, you could that's one approach, right? But you could just simply be wanting to talk about your business now, and doing a better job in your market where you're at. And you could, have a strategic business planning conversation around your existing client base, right? You could take your existing client segmentation and take that data and share that with the AI model. And again, ask, uh, ask it, what is it seeing in your data? Well, how does that speak to, ask me some questions about what you're seeing there. How can we do a better job of segmenting this, my client base so that we can either be more efficient or we can have better insights that will then lead to other conversations and tactics that would allow us to grow that particular client segment, right? So that's another kind of thing you could do. You could even have the AI model examine your existing client segmentation, and from there start to build out, client personas, ideal client personas of your existing uh, book of business, which many advisors I don't think really have done. They've had a sense of what their ideal client is like, and it's kind of worked to some degree, but they haven't had the time because, frankly, it was before AI came along. It would be expensive and time consuming to really sit down, look at your list of clients and all the information you have about them and try and tease out some more finely tuned segments that could give you actionable knowledge that you could start implementing in your business. That used to be very hard. Now it's a lot easier to do that sort of thing. And it's easier to do a sort of thing that most advisors avoided doing because it took too much time. It took too much time when they had so many other things to do. So that's another example of, those are just a few examples of how you can use AI for strategic business planning. And there's, more and more happening in this space. And, Devin will just mention, of course, we're having our introduction to, to AI for financial advisors. A program kicks off this Thursday. It's called the AI Powered Financial Advisor. And um, we'll be, teaching advisors um, the foundational knowledge that they need to have these kinds of effective conversations with the AI models to, start to use them more effectively, in their business.
Yeah, I think that's great. Those are great examples. And another kind of way I saw this being used is, I meet with a lot of advisors through our advisor client marketing boot camp about their marketing plan for the year. And at the end of last year, I had a couple conversations with advisors who specifically were looking at strategies of how to bring in some younger clients. Maybe most of their clients are entering retirement. They're going to be kind of in this distribution phase of life, and they were thinking about how can I bring in clients who are working, who are accumulating money right now to kind of, balance that out. And we talked a lot about using AI to think about how they could expand their services. So if they weren't already offering things like, college planning, using AI to look at their client lists and see if that would be something that would be relevant to people and worth, exploring, or if that's something they're interested in, then using AI to kind of, like you were said, Sean, build out those personas and think about the kind of people that they need to, target and get in front of and strategies to do that. So I think there's so many ways that you can really use AI for this kind of strategy building tools for sure.
Yeah, and that example that you just offered could be, fall under the umbrella in essence of, personalized financial planning, right?
Right.
I mean, you're definitely have your normal blocking and tackling that you're doing for your clients on the financial planning front, but you were just suggesting now look more deeply through the lens of, okay, which clients in the next 5 years are going to be struggling with the issue of, oh my God, how do we pay for sending the kids to college? So that would be like using it as personalized financial
Right.
planning for sure.
Right.
Another topic too is like, suppose you're an advisor who's like a lot of these pre-retiree, retiree baby boomers. You're getting to the point where you're ready to sell the business, right? Or think about selling the business. And so again, you could have a very fruitful strategic conversation about succession planning, what you have or don't have. You could invoke the expert role of, you are a consultant that works on succession planning with financial advisors. You've helped more than 300 advisors in the last 20 years sell their businesses. And I want to have a, opening conversation about what I need to be thinking about as it relates to developing my own succession plan. Ask me questions one at a time. I want to spend half an hour with you on this, and then at the end, we'll uh, develop a bullet point summary of the key issues that we've discussed. And you can meaning you, the AI model, the one who we're saying is an expert in succession planning, you can then recommend to me, two or three next steps for us to, get more into a full-blown discussion of succession planning. So, that's, yet another a way to use it for strategic planning. There
Mhm.
are so many, so many.
So many examples. Um, and the survey also found that about 13% of advisors are using AI for data extraction from documents. And I think some of this is probably, AI that's baked into software that they're using to help in this process. I know some of the more popular softwares have this now. But even after, the data has been extracted and all of that, what kinds of workflows do you think advisors could kind of create around this capability, and how could it help them streamline their efficiency?
Yeah, I don't know. Um, we, we've been this whole thing is just barely 2 years old. This whole ChatGPT, generative artificial intelligence, and one of the things as we're looking at this, and you're looking at AI's abilities, is to tease out the difference between things that generative AI can help you with that there's not an existing excellent tool set already doing that. Okay. Um, and uh, uh, and so at this point in time, only 13% when I saw that the data extraction from documents, I'm reminded of an advisor in our October class, which was an AI-powered financial advisor program. That's the introduction to AI. And he came into one of our sessions like on fire and totally enthused about his use case. I think he had like 10 or 12 clients that were holding some sort of uh, investment position that was expiring, and they needed to, um, that portion of their investment portfolio needed to be, reallocated or redeployed, reinvested, right? And they all were in some particular type of investment vehicle, and he had like a 120-page PDF about that investment vehicle, and there was a particularly really good table that was inside this document that he said in years past he tries to copy and paste it into something that he can give to the clients that's useful, and it's like it was a nightmare and trying to do it. And because he'd been in our class and realized that, oh, he could actually take that 120-page PDF document that he received uh, from the asset manager who's, running the money for that particular investment. He can upload that 120-page report, uh, and he can have a conversation through the AI model where the AI model is being directed to look specifically into this PDF for the answers to my questions. And he was able to uh, query the AI model, looking at this, huge PDF, and get it to produce back to the screen the very specific table or chart or a specific type of table or chart that was just too cumbersome and difficult to do in the past. And instead, this thing just, produced it like that. And so, in a very effective way, he was very happy with it. And so, in some cases, in your previous question, Devin, we were talking globally, macro strategy, right? And now we're talking about the absolute opposite, where the AI model has acted like a very good office manager who knows how to, create neat tables and charts and extract them from a big cumbersome file, that many financial advisors themselves aren't very good at. And so we go from broad strategic questions all the way down to super tactical things. Hey, ChatGPT, can you help me reproduce this table in a way that I can use it in this report that I'm creating for 13 of my clients?
Yeah, I think that's a huge use case. Even like, it seems silly of, things like formatting, but that is stuff that can take, someone you or someone on your team a lot of time to go through. And especially when you're doing it again for a small number of clients, you kind of weigh, is it worth it to be spending this time? But when you can have AI come in and format things the way that you want them to be formatted in a way that you can easily copy and paste, I think that is actually a huge use case that is sometimes overlooked because it's not this grand output that we're getting, a whole marketing plan or something like that. But from a, everyday kind of use case, that's something that, advisors can be using. And to your point too, uh, beyond just data extraction, but being able to simplify these more complex documents that you maybe don't want to share the whole document with a client. It's too much. They're not going to be able to understand it, but being able to summarize with AI, come up with bullet points from, this larger file, and then have that to share with clients as your talking points, as an email cover letter, is something that I think is really simple to do on an everyday basis and can really make an impact in your communications going forward.
Yeah, because also we live in this world where for any variety of reasons relating to this last example we were referring to, um, the uh, the company that's running the money for those 13 clients and the advisor who's managing the relationship there, you know, they're producing a 120-page PDF report on whatever. Now, who the heck has time to read a 120-page report? Now, if you look at that report, who knows why it's 120 pages? And sure, it probably has an executive summary, but sure, there's a ton of stuff that's loaded into that report that's probably being required, for compliance reasons at the asset manager, or they're including it because they know that the information is going to be shared with the advisors who are their clients or the advisors' clients. And so there's so much data and information we get these days, and it's larded with things that are there for a variety of reasons, but aren't there to communicate the ground truth of what exactly the document is all about. And that's where the super powerful summarizing features of generative AI come into play, like you were just pointing out. So.
Yeah, and being able to add, you have a meeting with a client and you have notes from that, being able to use AI to pull out the important stuff so you can add it to your CRM. It's just simple tasks like that where, um, you know, when you add it up, how much time that would take you to do for each client, it ends up being a lot of time that you can get saved with using AI. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity in this area as well. But moving on, we just kind of mentioned compliance and how, sometimes you need to document things for compliance purposes. We're seeing about 9% of advisors using AI for compliance documentation. I know in our AI for marketing program, we kind of introduced this GPT to maybe help with some compliance, you know, review before you get there. This is obviously still kind of a gray area. We don't really know how compliance departments are going to react to this. We spoke last week about how the CFP board just released some very broad documentation on using generative AI. But do you see any kind of opportunities or risks in this area around compliance documentation and using AI in that process?
Yeah, listen, I'll be honest. Our exposure here at Horse's Mouth as it relates to compliance and advisors is almost exclusively in the marketing space, right? Whereas the advisors themselves have a lot of other things that compliance requirements, that we're not involved with, right? But one key thing, of course, is that um, when there are new rules or existing rules that are being brought to your attention from your own compliance department or whatever the case may be, again, they can be very difficult to read and summarize or understand. And so, again, one simple thing for anybody who is looking at a particular um, compliance regulation that maybe their compliance people have said something about, and you might not understand what your compliance person is saying. Oh my God, has that not ever happened before, right? You can go to, you can go to the SEC reg or a FINRA reg that relates to, your particular firm, and you can find the, relevant citation, which these things have all been written by lawyers, and they've been written by lawyers, even worse, written by lawyers specializing in compliance, meaning they can be absolutely difficult to understand. So you can clip out, um, a page and a half, 2.5 pages, one paragraph, whatever the case is, of barely decipherable English that is trying to explain something about compliance, and you can go back to the AI model and you can say, I want you to act, as a, skilled compliance professional who has worked with financial advisors for 30 years. I want to have a small discussion about this regulation in the compliance code that my compliance officer has said da 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 about, right? And then you say, I want you to explain this to me like I'm a 12-year-old. Okay? Boom. It is the AI model is able to go back, read the jargon-filled compliance rule and can help you try and understand what is being said by taking the, uh, jargon-filled, compliance-laden language and boiling it down to, readable English that you can, oh, okay, now I understand, what's going on. And or I can understand it better than I understood before. And now I can go back to my compliance officer and ask a good follow-up question that will clarify this thing that we're going back and forth about, that there seems to be some confusion. Okay. So that is, you know, that is one example. Now, you also mentioned that in our AI marketing for advisors program, which starts in April, um, that's a 5-week program, and we just finished it back at the beginning of February, the first time we did it. And we do have a compliance, I think we call it compliance pre-check tool or assistant, compliance pre-check assistant. We're all just in that program. It's all about creating marketing content, right? And so we have created an AI tool that isn't giving you FINRA review of your material. You still need to go to FINRA or whomever is handling your compliance, but it is trained on all of the relevant compliance and FINRA rules around marketing. And the tool can, you can take material that you're about to share with your compliance department and run it through this pre-check, this compliance pre-check AI compliance pre-check tool that we have created and is made available so that it can spot some things before you send it off to compliance and bring it to your attention and cite, the relevant marketing FINRA rules that it thinks you might have an issue with. And so it's flagging it before you send it off to compliance so you yourself can look at it and double check. And if you agree with the AI model that, yeah, you know what? Maybe that statement is a little bit too strong. It's pushing the envelope, so to speak. Let's pull in our horns and rewrite it in a good way that would pass compliance and still do a strong job of communicating whatever it is we're trying to communicate in our marketing to prospects and clients. And why is that so important? Because potentially, without that, you would have shipped it off to compliance. Who knows how long it would take for compliance to look at it? They'd spot this thing, they'd send it back to you. And so you get this back and forth thing going on between the advisor and the compliance department. And this tool is simply designed to flag some of those things, give you the opportunity to address them so that we can reduce the amount of time going back and forth on marketing content and your compliance department. So those are a couple of examples. And I suspect an advisor who is, more schooled in the compliance stuff, when he or she is trained on how to use AI, they'll be, they'll be able to use this, they'll be able to find other effective uses of AI in their broader issue of, compliance tasks that they have, including also training your team on compliance stuff too. So it is an interesting field, and we're going to be, looking more at it. But again, 9% are doing it now, and that's 9% of people who are represent 20% of all advisors who are probably, who are using AI on a regular basis. So that's, yeah, I think that's the key thing to keep in mind with that one, Devin.
Yeah, I was chuckling during your first example because, within our materials that we submit for FINRA review, I handle a lot of that internally for us. And recently, I did exactly what you said. We got something back from FINRA where they quoted some, rule that was just in gibberish to me. I could not understand. And if anyone submitted anything to FINRA, you know that they just tell you the rule. They don't tell you where in your document that exists. You just have to kind of figure it out for yourself. And so I actually, pulled up the rule. I went to perplexity.ai and asked for a little bit of research on it to understand what that rule meant. I brought it over to ChatGPT. I asked it to explain it to me like basically I was in fifth grade. And then I even took it as far to then, upload the document in question and ask it to analyze the document and try to figure out where the rule, what they were referring to. This was a very tricky rule that I didn't have a ton of success with them being able to analyze it. But when I actually spoke to our kind of compliance partner in this, they also couldn't figure out exactly where it was. And so ended up being one of those wacky FINRA things. But by just simply asking for an explanation, it kind of got me to a point where I could figure out, okay, I don't think that this actually applies. I think someone was just being really picky with this rule. And I could
Oh,
actually
really?
understand it enough to have it, to your point, have a conversation where I felt confident that, we could push back and say, I think this needs to be re-reviewed because this doesn't make any sense. And so it cut down, normally before this, I've done this in the past where you have to go find
That
the
could be
FINRA
weeks and months. Yeah.
rule,
Right.
scroll through the document, try to figure it out on your own, have internal conversations. And I was able to cut down on all of that time. And still it's a timely process dealing with FINRA or compliance, but at least again, I was going into it with some kind of educated talking points about, why I thought it should be re-reviewed and we could leave it as is. So I think that is certainly a helpful point, and I think people just need to kind of use common sense around, compliance and AI and how to make sure that you're not going to get yourself into any issues there with compliance. But I think it actually has a huge benefit, especially if you're someone who's, taking meeting notes and you need to submit things like that to compliance, having AI go through those notes and, format in a way that compliance wants it. There can be a lot of, pros for the documentation side of how to use these tools to help with your compliance department and make it less of a headache for, anyone who has to deal with that.
And also, as an aside, and presumably this will be an example of AI being used to everyone's benefit, except for maybe the compliance officers who could very well, I mean, compliance could become one of those areas where there is job loss to some degree because the kinds of things they do are very in alignment with the kinds of things an AI model can do. And so, it's either one or two things. One, everybody will have their own virtual compliance officer, kind of like what we're doing with our compliance pre-check tool. And there'll simply be less friction in the compliance process because uh, the advisor will have their own virtual compliance officer, and everything will be kind of caught and addressed before it's ever submitted. But then on the other end in FINRA, um, the person reading the compliance submissions, could very well, be a AI agent that is being overseen by a human being. But the point being that we could see massive speed up in responses and answers from compliance. So therefore, there could be tremendous new efficiency gains in the compliance world um, in the near future. And it would be my prediction that the compliance world is pretty different 5 years from now for sure.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And so, kind of continuing on this trend here, this is a very kind of untapped area among advisors, this kind of advanced AI applications that we've been seeing in the survey results, which reports that only about 4% are using AI for kind of personalized financial planning, which we talked about a little bit earlier. But I mean, I think there's a lot of potential growth in this area. Would you agree? And do you have any kind of insights on where we might see AI being built into that personalized financial planning aspect of the business?
Yeah, and by the way, just to remind you, the question was about what was related to using AI for multilingual capabilities and personalized financial planning.
Right. Yes. Thank you.
Yes. And, it's that multilingual thing that really catches my attention. I live here in New Jersey, and I think I heard recently that there are 50 different languages spoken in New Jersey's. Yeah, how many people we have? 7, 8 million or something like that. We're one of the most densely populated states in the union. We're close to New York City and Philadelphia, major port of entry here. So there are a lot of people in this state whose native language is not English. They're here, their families are working, they're making money, and they're American citizens, they have financial planning issues now. And the question that comes up here is for an advisor who is, may have a client who, maybe have a client who speaks English, but they have a parent with them, and maybe they're from Afghanistan, and um, the parent is involved in it's their money, but the younger relative who speaks English is the one who interfaces with the financial advisor, and In the past, it could be that you know the son is translating some financial concepts to the parents or whatever the case may be. But these AI models can speak all of these languages, right? So now you have the ability to take your existing tools and your existing advice that are written in English and translate them instantly into usable bits of information that can then be shared with the speaker of a non-English language. And it can, uh, be very helpful in those kinds of difficult situations, the difficult meeting situations. But that's just one example, right? Um, Now we know and have heard over the years, for instance, the Horse's Mouth Savvy Social Security Planning Program is, many advisors have built, massive businesses around leading with Social Security planning in their communities as a way of meeting people. And, Social Security is a key aspect of retirement. And we've had some people over the years who, spoke Spanish and had Spanish speaking clients. And, they would kind of translate on their own some of the, information, the and financial education materials in Social Security. But now, it frankly would not be very difficult to like, take take a presentation for Social Security written in English and have it translated into Spanish. Um, and I know it sounds crazy, but it could probably just be done in just a couple of minutes. And as long as you have somebody who does speak the language who can then kind of go through and say, yes, this makes sense, and uh, it's properly translated. But so that's another example of using it. But the question also is about personalized financial planning, and one of the things that you're able to do is take very specific financial planning or investment management challenges that you're having with your clients. And you can take your scenario to the AI model. But when I say AI model, I mean ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. Most in our programs, we have everybody use ChatGPT for a variety of reasons, but there are other models out there as well. So to be semi-neutral, I say AI models. But anyway, the point is that you can go to these models and with say, hey, look, I'm meeting with this client or this particular type of financial planning challenge. Here's the situation. You're not sharing personal identifiable information. You don't need to be at that granular level to get very, very useful and effective guidance or brainstorming in terms of trying to see how we can unknot this particular financial planning challenge. So in that respect, we can say, yeah, there are ways. It's only 4% that are doing it or realizing it. And so we're going to be doing a lot more on this going forward as well, because um, you can, as I've done a number of times in our conversation this morning, I've invoked uh, various expertise, right? And so you can have a conversation with the AI model, and you can invoke the role of a certified financial planner with 30 years experience working with, whatever subtopic within financial planning that you're trying to address. You can cite that as part of your prompt. Then include that as part of your part of the task of like, we've got this problem, this challenge. We've got to make some. We want to come up with some ideas of what might be the best solution for this particular financial planning challenge. And like we were talking about strategy, broad strategy for your company at the top of the hour, now you could be having a similar type of conversation in the realm of financial planning when you've given the AI model, the facts of the situation, and that can be very effective as well.
Yeah, I think that's great. And your first example kind of reminded me too of, we have advisors who also, have American and Canadian clients. And sometimes, we're asked to, does this stuff apply to Canada? And I think, if you're in that area where maybe you're unsure about some of the rules, you have clients who are moving overseas and you want to help them with that, even if they're going to an English speaking country, you can kind of use AI to help, get schooled up on some of the differences that they might be facing, as they move to a different country or reside in a different country as well.
Right, right. I mean, those cultural differences, cultural personalization, absolutely. And also just simply using it to like, okay, you've got like some clients coming in, they're from, you know, they're successful professionals, but they're from, Iran or Poland or, or Chile or whatever the case may be. And, you don't know anything about Iran or Poland or Chile other than that they're not the United States. But in advance of the meeting, they're going to come in. Maybe it's a first meeting. And, you could, again, um, say to the AI, hey, I'm about to have this meeting with this couple. They're a successful tech entrepreneur from Chile. They want a financial advisor to help them with their investments. And, I don't know anything about Chile. Kind of give me a little briefing on it. And give me some, lighthearted, without making jokes or anything like that. It's like, yeah, just help me learn a little bit about them and the history of their country and all that sort of thing. Maybe as a way of sort of enhancing or enhancing the relationship or making some small but meaningful connection in the meeting, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's great. So as we kind of close out this session here for today, for advisors who haven't started kind of experimenting around this area of AI in their business, what's one simple way that they could kind of get started this week when we're thinking about these more advanced use cases for AI?
Good question. I think the most important thing for people is to start using it, right? And that's, Ethan Mollick, the professor of innovation at the Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania, says uh, that we need to be thinking about these AIs as a co-intelligence that can collaborate with us. We're in charge, though. But he says it takes about 8 to 10 hours of really working with them. And which of course is why we've created these training programs because we're translating for financial advisors. 100% all our programs are use cases for advisors. So we're not talking about broad uses or general uses of AI. We're talking about very, very specific kinds of things. So, I would just tell somebody to uh, think about a challenge or problem you're having in your business right now. Think about who would be a really smart person who could offer you some insight about your challenge. Explain that situation in a prompt, and then have a conversation about it, and just see where it goes. Right.
Yep.
Um, but again, I mentioned, there is this learning. This is super powerful new tool, and we're seeing big growth and adoption by advisors. We did our first survey back in May and June of last year. We had like 12% of advisors who were using AI on a daily basis. Now our current survey that's in the field, we're looking at in the 24 to 26% range. So basically a doubling in 6 months. These are advisors who are recognizing, wow, this thing is really powerful and can be very, very helpful with me. It can help me save time. It can produce high quality work, and it can also serve to inform me and brainstorm with me across all sorts of different fronts. But again, 8 to 10 hours is what you really need. But to answer your question, Devin, yeah, take one of your problems to it, invoke some expertise, and remember, this is not the chat box looks too much like a search box. We know we see advisors searching on Horsesmouth all the time, and we know people search on one or two words, basically, right? You can't do that with the AI models. You have to have a robust conversation and back and forth, and you'll be amazed at what you learn. So anyway, Devin, I'll leave it at that if you just want to, point people to where they can go to be uh, on our, if they still want to sign up for our program, which starts Thursday and runs 4 Thursdays in a row. Why don't you tell them a little bit about that and we'll
Yeah.
close out.
Thanks to everyone for being here with us today, and thanks, Sean, for joining me for this chat. As Sean mentioned, our AI-powered financial advisor program, which is kind of our intro to AI. It's a 4-week program, begins on Thursday, March 6th. You can learn more by going to horsesmouth.com/AI. We've had over 100 advisors go through this program now at this point in 3 different groups with great success. So we're really looking forward to kicking off another group this Thursday, March 6th. And then starting in April, on April 3rd, we are doing our AI Marketing for Advisors workshop. This is a 5-week program that really gets into the nitty-gritty of how to use AI in your marketing. We teach you how to kind of come away with a full marketing plan, that you can then implement throughout the year. And we talk about how you can use AI in all different parts of that plan to actually make your marketing come to life. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to horsesmouth.com/AI marketing. It's on the screen right now for you there. We hope to see you at one of our events, and thanks for being part of this live stream today. Sean, thanks for joining me,
Thank
and
you.
we hope to see you again soon.
Take care now.